Welcome in. Today we're going to be talking through the end of a construction project schedule, including project delay analysis and the evaluation of liquidated damages. Let's jump right in. An as-built schedule is a CPM or critical path method schedule that depicts the start and completion date, duration, costs, and consumed resources for each activity. The contractor is responsible for submitting the initial baseline schedule, subsequent schedule updates, and the final as-built schedule for the project. The owner, or HDOT, is responsible for reviewing the as-built schedule for accuracy and evaluating project delays. A key role HDOT holds regarding construction schedules is time management. Successful schedule tracking helps minimize and mitigate delays. Delay equals more money for the contractors, HDOT, or both. A deeper understanding of delay ownership is critical, particularly at the end of a project. Specification Section 10805E, contractors' continuing schedule submittal requirements require updated schedules are submitted by the contractor every 2 weeks. There's no specification required for when the final as-built schedule is required, but you can use the same spec requirement listed above. We should be receiving at a minimum monthly schedule updates, so the final as-built schedule should be submitted soon after the work is completed. Where do these schedules get uploaded? All CPM schedule updates, including the final as-built schedule, are required per HSS 10806, so the contractor shall submit schedules through the submittal module on ACC. HDOT sets a review workflow to the appropriate reviewer, project engineer, the scheduler, or the construction manager, whoever reviews those schedules for your project. Use ACC to complete your review of the final as-built schedule. The Hawaii Standard specifications are really important. The schedule tab in ACC, you're able to upload and import your raw schedule files to do the review there. You can also review the PDF printout of the as-built schedule, make whatever comments are needed, and then return those to the contractor through ACC. And now we're moving over to milestones. We have had a lot of discussion on these milestones and the importance. We do have other trainings that can go more into this. Today, we are going to be focusing on the pre-final inspection, the final inspection, the contractual completion, and the substantial completion, and how we use them as tools to look at delays or liquidated damages. Now we're taking a look at the specifications involving delay. HSS section 10805, this is the section on contract time. This is a very important specification to understand, especially when you're evaluating or looking at delay. Section A discusses the calculation of contract time, whether you're in working days or calendar days. Section B discusses more in depth on the modification of contract time. And then subsections 1 is delays caused by the state, 2, delay for permits, 3, delays beyond the contractor's control. Notification requirements are in there. Section 4, delays in delivery of material or equipment, 5, delays for suspension of work, 6, contractor caused delays, and then 7, reduction in time. I did want to highlight a couple of key things within the specifications involving delay. This first one here is 10805B, which does require the contractor to provide written notice to the engineer not more than 5 working days after the occurrence of the event that causes a delay or justifies a contract time extension. So we need to make sure we're getting these notifications in due time. If the contractor believes that HDOT is the owner of a delay, then those things should be brought to HDOT in a timely manner so that HDOT has a chance to successfully manage or mitigate that delay if at all possible. To have these delays, being notified of the delays and understanding these delays as they're happening is really critical for the project to move forward. Section 10805B1, this discusses how the contractor must show how the critical path will be affected. At the request of the engineer, the contractor must show how the critical path will be affected and must also support the time extension request with schedules, as well as the statements from its subcontractors, suppliers, or manufacturers. So basically what this is saying is when they submit the notification to us, they need to also show us how and why this schedule is being impacted and being pushed out. And they have to show it on the critical path, why the delay to this activity is causing delay to the entire project. 10808B, this discusses the liquidated damages during the punch list period. And understanding that when the contractor fails to complete the work within the contract time and you're into the punch list period of your project, the pre-final milestone has been completed, then we can go in and it would be a lesser charge of liquidated damages at 20% of the amount of the liquidated liquidated damages established in your contract. Also wanted to highlight 10805B3 little b. It discusses the compensation during rain days. We do not grant additional compensation when there are rain days. 10813A, pre-final and final inspections. So the contractor shall notify the engineer that the work has reached substantial completion and is ready for the pre-final inspection. Now we're going to transition this over so that we can walk through an actual example of an end of project schedule analysis, delay analysis, and a liquidated damages assessment. When we get to the end of a project, maybe we haven't sorted out the delays. A lot of times during construction, you're just trying to get the work completed and move on, and hey, we'll handle the time part later. We got to the end of the project, we hadn't granted any time extensions. In this case, the contractor, they've written us a letter saying that they're requesting an additional 70 calendar days be added to the contract and $455,000 for the extended overhead attributable to that delay. They've split it into 4 delay periods here. Different justifications for each of those delays, final weekly statement of working days, and then a time-related overhead calculation. I'm going to flip this over to my version of this that has comments. So 70 calendar day time extension, $6,500 in overhead per calendar day, and that came out to the $455. So that's what they're asking for. Delay number 1, they were asking for a 14 calendar day delay. Delay 2 was a 34 calendar day. Delay 3 was a 19 calendar day. The 4th delay period was the rain days, where they had 3 calendar days. Now, when I counted all 4 of these up, I came up with 70. They're asking for compensation for all of this. What we would need to do is we're going to go through and do an analysis on all of these delay periods, determine if there was any concurrent delays. This first exhibit was for delay 1. It looks like it's a letter that they had written on October 2nd, 2025, which was the day that delay started. So they meet the spec of 10805B, where they provided notification at the time of the delay. It was within that 5-day window, so that part of it checks out. It says the delay will impact the material procurement of steel needed to construct PCC in both phases 1 and 2, which we know was on the critical path. They also included, per spec 10805B1, analysis showing how this delay is pushing on my critical path, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. There's my delay. It was added on October 2nd, and it looks like it's pushing out my critical. As long as we're in agreement that that was extra work, say we've done that merit check. From a schedule standpoint, I would agree that this delay pushed the critical path for the project. My second delay letter also met the specs. So both of those delay periods 1 and 2, I've determined that from a schedule standpoint, I would agree those did push the critical path, and the notifications met the specs. This third one, it was a punch list delay notification. So this letter that they're including as their justification was actually the letter where they were requesting substantial completion. And I've seen this before. That's why I wanted to use it as an example. There's nothing in this letter about delay. So I was just adding note that this letter met the spec of 10813A, but it does not meet or support the delay notification requirements in 10805. And then you'll see this too, a printout of a PDF. An email does not count as an official notification for a delay per spec. For the purposes of this training, I am going to reject merit on this. We've all seen this before. They're claiming that the delay at the end of the project was due to all of this. And then I just added this in too, because I've seen this a bunch where they're trying to say, hey, you know, our notification was noted on our weekly statement of working days, where here they had this comment added where they were reserving the right to time adjustment due to delays. They highlighted it, and they're just saying, yeah, like everyone knew that we were in delay. In this case, they didn't meet that spec. Kind of the last piece of the puzzle here is looking at that overhead rate for the time-related overhead. It's usually just going to be a bunch of data that helps justify whatever number they've come up with. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to say, yes, this was good. We did come up with $6,500 per calendar day. And what I want to do now is kind of take a look to try to find those concurrent delays. So I took my last project schedule and I already updated it. I'm in my schedule module in ACC, right? So basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to compare my very last version of this schedule, which is the as-built at the end, to the very first one. So I just want to see what happened on this project. Where were their deltas? They have all these pre-made filters here, and this is showing me all of the changes that happened on the project. So there's 143 items. So basically things are going to happen. Dates are going to move from what you had planned to what you actually did. Critical path filter. So this is just going to show me what happened on the critical path for the project, where the delays were and what pushed out. And if you actually peel this back one layer here, you can see duration. This is how I'm going to find my concurrent delays. Looking through this, anytime you see these little arrows, it's telling you this date pushed beyond what this showed. Black lettering here is the as-built schedule, so the final, and then the pink is the first schedule. Looking through this, you'll see all these carets, and these are kind of more like the bigger buckets of activities. I'm kind of just trying to find these actual activities and to see where there were differences. And I would make note of all of these delays where we had some shifts. So in this case, looks like cold planing was supposed to be 2 days, but the contractor took 6 days. So that's a delay. This tells me the contractor cost us 4 days right here. I'm not exactly sure how that lined up with my delay periods, but you're going to kind of go through these. This guardrail looks like was supposed to go in. It took 21 days instead of 20 days. So I'm just kind of going through this and making comments where I see a duration bust. Looks like the signage was an extra 4 days. There's an extra day here. And then you'll see this too. If you see this green arrow, that means you actually saved time. So it looks like procurement of our long lead materials, we actually saved some time. The contractor did. I would usually take note of that's how you're going to kind of see what happened to the schedule in the end. Looks like the punch list was, as we know, it was 34 days to get through. They had 9 on their schedule. Blanket grinding was supposed to be 5 days. It took 10. Compaction, testing of subgrade, it was supposed to be 2 days. It took 9. Base course placement, 5. It took 10. So I would just kind of go through this list here and make my chart on the side. So what I do is draw it out, what happened on the project. In this case, I kind of used some color coding on these activities just to show you what all this is. This is just where contract work was completed. The red here is where we know there were HDOT delays per our TIA. I added in the rainouts just to show those periods of time because we know we're going to have to give time for that. The closeout I just made blue just so we know, and this is how I denote it with those 2 milestones, right? On the bookends, I can see, okay, the pre-final was here. So this becomes my closeout period to the substantial completion date. Now what I do is I'm going to drop in all of my concurrent delays that I found in ACC. And I just wanted to see, hey, where were the contractor delays in my critical path? So I sort of ended up plotting those in and just found out there was a concurrent delay here within our known delay period. What this says is both HDOT and the contractor were driving delay. So out of that 14 days, they were on the hook for 7 days. We just look through all of this and see where everything landed. I see there were 2 separate delays in this delay period that we were going to grant them. That's how I found my concurrent delays. Then what I would do is I would just go through delay by delay and do my analysis of those sections. So for this delay period 1, we had 14 calendar days compensable is what they were claiming. In my TIA analysis, I said, okay, out of those 14 days, there was a concurrent delay of 7 days. So in the end, HDOT would own 7 calendar days compensable and 7 days non-compensable due to that concurrent delay. We would still give them the 14-day period of time because a concurrent delay, we give time but no compensation. And then I would just go through each of these delay periods and do more or less the same. The delay period 2, we had 34 calendar days that they were claiming compensable. When we looked through it, we found that there were 9 days of concurrent delay. So we ended up with 25 calendar days compensable and 9 calendar days non-compensable. For that delay 3, with the rainouts per HSS 10805B3 little b, no compensation is allowed for weather-related delays. It's in the spec. So in the end, we would just determine, okay, we're going to give 3 calendar days non-compensable. For delay period 4, that was the punch list delay. The contractor was claiming 19 calendar days compensable. After our TIA analysis, we said the contractor did not follow HSS 10805B, and we also disagreed that the punch list was anything being asked of them outside of contract. So in the end, we just denied merit on that, and we're saying there's no calendar days that we're giving them for this delay period. So when I do my side-by-side analysis, the contractor was claiming 70. They, by admission without notification, they were on the hook for 18 days in LDs because they were claiming 70 and we were 88 days over. So that's the delta. After our analysis, we ended up going, okay, we're going to give 32 compensable calendar days, 19 non-compensable calendar days, and then 37 calendar days in LDs. Liquidated damages, as I mentioned early on, we need to kind of split these up into the different periods that to be able to figure out how much they get charged. So kind of looking at that first period, I found that there were 25 calendar days within the closeout that the contractor was causing the delay. So based on how that spec is written, we're doing 25 calendar days, $5,000 per calendar day is my LDs for this project. So 20% of 5,000 is 1,000. So you end up with 25 calendar days times $1,000 per day equals 25,000 in LDs just for this closeout period. And the remaining 12 days of LDs, where were those at? Those would have fallen into what I showed you earlier, where they caused their own slippages on the schedule. So because this was during contract work and before the pre-final inspection, this would be 12 calendar days at the full $5,000 per calendar day, and you end up with 60,000 in LDs there. We're finalizing it. We're doing a time extension of 51 calendar days, 32 of which are compensable. So this is kind of like the financial side. And then we end up with $208,000 that we would give to the contractor. But then we also need to factor in those LDs. We ended up with 85,000 in LDs, giving them the 51 days. That's going to move our contractual completion date from February 25th to April 17th. Final cost with this change order would be $208,000 in overhead minus the 85,000 in LDs. And we end up paying $123,000 with that 51-day extension. Okay, so hopefully today's training was helpful for you. Understanding delay and how to analyze delay is critical for effective project management. Thanks all, and see you on the next one.